Hello. Okay. I think everything's working now. So if anybody is in the chat, just let me know if you can hear me. So if y'all can hear me, just I had to fix everything. Apparently, the universe don't want me to speak on what I'm speaking on right now. I mean, I see my little thing moving, so I'm pretty sure y'all can hear me now. Okay. All right. So I'm a little choppy, like a little bit. Okay. Hold on. Let me just give it a minute or so, because I did have to troubleshoot some stuff on my computer to try to make sure everything was all right. Um, let's see real quick. Okay, hold on. Sam. Okay, we just gonna go with the flow. See how everything goes. If y'all are unable to hear anything that I'm saying, just feel free to stop me at any moment. Um, Even if this song messes up, because y'all know I have to play my intro song, but if the song messes up, just let me know as well. Because, like I said, I had to do some troubleshooting on everything just to make sure everything was good. Um, but without further ado, let me get this song going. Once this song is over with, um, we are definitely going to get into a nice big discussion. Either my life domination like gosh we is please sympathize on lies please realize all the time never ask for payment in the womb time I was 3 times try feminine energy balance of the indestructible individual heaven in thine heaven is mine spiritual lyrical mercy level of shame feminine energy rain intuition and the mission intuition shine intuition and the mission running through my veins but what the love
I beg you, listen me. I beg you, open your ears for a little thing. Listen. In this one video, remember say ya, one day go come when we all go. Before long, we go meet Mama God. When we dey meet Mama God, wetin we go see.
All right, y'all. So we gonna try this out. It has been a minute since I've gone live, but like I said, hopefully y'all are able to hear me clearly. Hopefully nothing is choppy. If it is choppy at any point, feel free to let me know in the chat right away so that I can either slow down, pause for a minute, figure out something. But I'm definitely not finna end this live right now just because of some technical difficulties. I already had y'all on wait for a minute. But before I get into my discussion this Saturday, I wanted to give a huge shout out to Learning and Building. Shout out to Bronze, Flat Power Guys. Shout out to Big Dog Philly OG. Um, shout out to everybody, that is even listening in the background, even if y'all aren't in the chat. And shout out to everyone else that is slowly about to creep in and check this out as well. Um, I wanted to get on here because everybody should already know. I knew and you knew she'll usually go on a Saturday. Yes, I have been kind of slacking a little bit, going every Saturday. But when I pop up, I pop up. And much love, much respect to everyone that is able to catch my lives when I do go live. Please ignore my voice right now as well. It is a little hoarse. And I will explain to y'all as to why, which is kind of why I felt that my topic for today is based off of universal survival. Um, so quick story, real quick before I get into some skill sets and everything like that with you guys on how to survive in this world and beyond this world. Let me say that. Um, so I personally just had a crazy day just a couple of days ago, or a few days ago, technically. On Thursday, um, yeah, this is going to be a crazy story, y'all. So just listen. So on Thursday, it was morning. Usually I go to work. I leave my house usually about 10:40. So usually I get up between like 10:20 is just to give myself some time to get dressed and all that good stuff before I go to work. Um, those of y'all that might not know, but those that do know, I currently have four children. I have a almost 12-year-old. I have a 9-year-old, a 4-year-old, and I also have a 5-month old. So Thursday, getting up for work like a normal day. My two oldest is already at school. Um, just got through trying to put my little baby down to sleep after feeding her, and went to go get ready for work. Didn't think anything of it just because usually by the time the oldest go to school, my two little ones are usually here and my 4-year-old is usually asleep. So after in the process of me getting dressed and all that good stuff, making sure I look good for work, I usually do my normal round checks in the house just to make sure my 4-year-old didn't sleep somewhere, whatever the case is. So on on this day, I went to go check in my son's room. She wasn't in there. Of course, I was already in the bathroom, so I knew she wasn't in there. So I went to go check her room, um, and she wasn't in her room either. So first instinct is like, okay, maybe she fell asleep downstairs, took her little puppy downstairs, and they both just downstairs chilling. No, y'all. I hit the stairs. My front door is wide open. Go downstairs, look in the kitchen, look in closets. Y'all, my 4-year-old ain't nowhere in the house. Nowhere to be found. I thought I was hallucinating for a second. So I ran up and down the stairs, looked in all the rooms again, even checked in my room just because I'm like, maybe I missed something. Went back downstairs, did the same thing. Y'all, my 4-year-old is not in the house. So I walk outside, I'm screaming her name, trying to see if she'll answer. First instinct was to start running around the complex, see if I could see her, because there's no way that this 4-year-old could go as far as what I'm thinking. And I know a lot of y'all is like, well, how she get out the door? First and foremost, that little girl is able to get out of an easy door that even my 5-month old can probably unlock, because my house isn't like a normal house. It's like it doesn't have a normal lock on it to where it has like your chain lock or a deadbolt lock or something to where it's not really accessible for a child. It's real like dummy proof. Like anybody could unlock the door, lock it or whatever from the inside and get out. So of course I'm running around the whole building, ran around the whole complex, cannot find her. Like she's nowhere to be found. So I go to the office and nobody's at the front of the office, like right in front of the window. So I'm trying to get their attention because apparently, on certain days they don't really like take certain people like right away. So I let them know like, yo, this is an emergency. I have a 4-year-old missing. I need help. Y'all got cameras. What's going on? So they didn't pull back the cameras quite yet, but mostly everybody in the building just kind of just cleared house and was helping me like look for her. And so in that process, of course, her dad is already like driving around trying to look for, look for her as well. And so um it got to a point where me and the people from the office, they were just like, hey, if we get up to the rec center and the other playground, if we don't see her, call 911. Like, call 911 right away, but we're going to keep looking. So I said, okay. So we get up there to the rec center, we get up to the second part. Remind y'all, I done already went through 2 playgrounds, literally going through slides, all kinds of stuff, trying to figure out, okay, well, where would a 4-year old go with a puppy? And the puppy is small as her. So I'm like, where would a 4-year old go with a puppy? So we couldn't find her up there. Finally, I get on the phone while I'm still walking around, call 911. Um, Let them know, like, hey, my 4-year old's missing. She was wearing a pink shirt before she went to sleep last night. As far as this morning, I'm not too sure exactly what she put on. Um, because she was not in my visible sight, um, for me to know what she had on. I said she could have not had a coat on, whatever the case is. So the officer takes down my information over the phone, and he's like, as soon as you get off this phone call, you need to call this particular officer to help you with the search for your daughter. So I said, okay. So I didn't wait for him to even hang up the phone. Y'all, like, mother instincts kicked in. I was not going to wait for no dispatch. Oh, okay, sorry, y'all. It kind of just broke up on me a little bit. But So I get on the phone with the officer and I'm trying to tell the officer, the same information I get the dispatcher about my daughter, what she would be wearing or whatever the case is. And he's like, just take a deep breath. He's like, we have her. She's perfectly safe. We're actually up at the elementary school that's about 3 blocks away from you. So I'm like, oh my gosh, thank you so much for finding her. I appreciate it. But even in the process of me talking to the officer, I hear her dad in the background as well, like, in the area, because I knew, like, okay, once I hear his voice, then I know, like, he's found her. So it they told me that apparently she was basically at the elementary school. Now, let me remind y'all, this elementary school is 3 blocks, maybe 2.5 blocks away from my house. Okay. So that means my 4-year-old walked with her puppy and she had to cross not one, but 2 intersections. So when I spoke to um, the officer and when I spoke to her dad, once they were able to make it safely back to the house, basically the story was is that apparently she was walking around in the parking lot and they seen her walking around. So this is a school at this point. The school sees her walking around in the parking lot for at least 30 minutes before they decided to intersect. Now I know that sounds bad because it's like, yo, y'all see a little girl, no parents around, puppy, and you're just going to watch her walk around. Yes, I understand that. Because knowing me as a mom, like, that would irritate the hell out of me. Like, she's by herself. Like, y'all shouldn't have even hesitated after, the first 1 to 5 minutes. Um, and they said that once the secretary of the school finally found her, she went outside, got my child to go inside to the school, and apparently they had called like 2 children down to just play with her for a little bit until she got picked up. Um, Overall, even the little boys was making comments saying, she's such a sweet girl. She's very nice, all that good stuff. They didn't have no issues with her. So I was just more thankful that me and her dad didn't hesitate to go into action. We didn't sit here and just wait for somebody to come make a statement. We didn't wait for anything like that. We kicked into gear and did what we needed to do to find her. Um, when she gets to the house, y'all, I mean, it was the cutest thing. Scary, but at the same time, it was the cutest thing to see what my 4 year old decided to put together to even leave the house. So she left the house with her shirt that I said she went to sleep in, which was pink shirt. She had on her coat. So she did make sure she put her coat on. She did not put no pants on because she is still wearing pull-ups, but she didn't put no pants on. And she put on her brother's boots, which are a little bit too big for her, but I guess they was just right for her to go walk in. So of course, that's like the cutest thing to know. Like a 4 year old could care less how their outfit look as long as they know they put the basics on, they get to go. Um, but when I tell y'all Thursday was one of my scariest days because not in a million years would I ever think that one of my children would go missing, let alone a 4 year old just walking out the house and going missing. Um, when I did speak to her, she it did kind of seem like she got lost because like I said, y'all, when I turned the corner and went down the stairs, the door is wide open. So I know for a fact she left the door open to know that that's the house that she's supposed to go in. So somewhere along the way, it could have been anything. Like maybe she just got distracted, just got too far from the house, or was just following the puppy around and trying to see where the puppy was going, and they just went a little bit too far. Um, but which comes back to the topic of today. Don't ever waste time to kick into action when it's needed right then and there. Nowadays, a lot of people will, wait on, some emergency assistance to pop up in their lap. Um, and that's in any situation. And it's like y'all wait for that emergency vessel to pop up to help you before you even thought about just getting up and trying to help yourself first. And I will say, with my instincts kicking in, my previous military skill sets kicking in on how to do certain tracking to make sure, you're not going overboard. It's just kind of like I wanted to share it with you guys just to know, like, dang, like when these stories is true of like children just going missing and all kinds of stuff, you never know what's going on. And it's really, really up to you and the community alone to just try to see what y'all can do in the process instead of just waiting. Because y'all, if it was any second later or even any second of her just even walking out the house, anything could have went wrong. Anything. She could have got hurt just by crossing the street, by getting hit. She could have got stolen by somebody. Both her and the dog could have got stolen, and then they probably just dispersed both or whatever. She could have just been killed. I don't know. Anything could have happened, but I'm just thankful that the school was able to find her and her dad was able to bring her back home safely. Um, so I wanted to kind of share that real quick with you guys just to let y'all know like what could really go down in this world. Um, so to get into my discussion on things, not a lot of people know survival tactics. Not a lot of people know um, how to just act without a reaction. Lately in today's society, a lot of people see danger, they see some form of emergency, and their delay of reaction is so slow to where within that short time frame of about 5 seconds to about 30 seconds of you deciding on whether to move, and do something, something could have been prevented at that moment. At least something could have been prevented at that moment. And one thing that we all need to start practicing is your reaction time. That's the first kind of survival 101 that I wanted to give you guys and start off with. Um, because without a fast reaction, everything could slowly fall apart at that moment. Everything. Um, and even when it comes to saving someone's life, which is another survival 101. I'm going to try to share a few things from memory, from training, um, and that's training in both military and that's training both for medical. Because, yes, I did go to school for about 2 years um, with doing some form of training as well. Um, so, um, First things first, if a lot of you don't know how to do CPR, um, CPR, they have kind of changed a lot of things recently. I don't know if you guys are up to code with on how that works. But before, I know a lot of people used to do like 3 breaths with um, about 5 to 10 blows to the chest. Um, and now, what they have suggested is that you do 2 breaths on the person that is unconscious or has gone into cardiac arrest, depending on which one. If they're not breathing, let me just say that if they are not breathing, meaning you put your hand over their mouth and their nose, and if you don't feel air, if you don't see air coming from their chest, and if you check a pulse and there is no pulse. First things first that you need to do is make sure that that person is laying back. Make sure that they have some type of comfort under their head. Even if you don't have it, you don't really need it. Your job is to try to save this person's life. Um, you need to make sure that when you do their breaths, you kind of tilt their head back just a little bit. And yes, they are laying down, so you're just taking their chin and just kind of lifting their chin up a little bit. That way, their airway is clear. You can't breathe air into someone if the air is not clear in their breathing airway. So once you do that, um, you immediately go into compressions. Compressions means you're basically taking your 2 hands. Let me show you guys real quick. And yes, I'm gonna turn my camera on so y'all can see real quick because it's kind of like something good to know. So, hi. And yes, my hair is not done. This is all natural right now. But I wanted to show you guys that when you do your compressions, a lot of the times they'll say you can do a fist if you don't have enough strength. Um, Usually, a lot of tinier people, they don't have enough strength. You can use a fist. If not, if you feel like you can compress your whole body into the person, it's just like this kind of. So, like this. Or you can even do it this way. Usually, a lot of people prefer this way so that they can have extra um, presses going down on the person's chest. One thing that I have learned both outside the military and inside the military is um, number one thing, you're going to be tired doing CPR, especially if it takes longer for that person to come back to. So when you're doing your compressions, you need to do 30 compressions. So that's literally 30 compressions into the chest, okay? Um, and you're basically going to be doing it kind of where they're um, almost like where their heart would actually be versus their actual chest, but whichever one that you get to right away, that's perfectly fine. Um, because your goal is to make sure the heart stays warm. If the heart is not warm enough, it's not going to get the heat and compressions that it needs. That's why they always tell you we've increased it to 30 compressions because at least you're, putting as much massaging onto that heart that you can. Um, Once you're done with the 30 compressions, you're going to go into two breaths. And yes, there's two breaths on the mouth. Now, if it's a child, you are capable, usually if it's like an infant or something, you'll be able to do over mouth and nose, but it's preferred to just breathe into the mouth. Um, and one thing I know a lot of people are like, well, what if it's a child or a baby or anything like that? I'm waiting for it to come back. Okay, there it goes. So what if it's a child or infant? With an infant, you're gonna use two fingers, same thing into the chest. Okay. Same thing with the breaths. You're gonna do the same thing with the breaths as well. Um, and with children who are, let's say, like my 4-year-old or something like that, feel free to do normal compressions because they treat normal children as kind of like the same equivalent to an adult when it does come to CPR. But for infants, you're going to use two fingers in the same area. Um, so always remember 30 compressions and remember two breaths. Once you finish your two breaths, go back to 30 compressions, then two breaths. You're going to keep repeating it. Even if you have to get somebody to kind of get somebody to help you, you can always get somebody to help you and switch off. And that especially goes for like women as well, because I know a lot of women get um, I'm not gonna say we get tired fast, but doing something like that consistently, it can weigh on you. And I'm telling y'all, recently, when I was pregnant, I redid some more CPR classes even while I was pregnant because I said I ain't never did no CPR if I was pregnant. Um, but I have done CPR on a person before. So um, one thing that I would say, just calmness is always going to go far. And shout out to the Goddess of Love. Thank you so much, beautiful, for showing up. I appreciate you. Um, but one thing that is key, we need to make sure that we are calm in the situation. A panic mind doesn't think straight. Always remember that. If you panic, if you got anxiety, you're never going to think straight. Okay. So it's always good to make sure that in any situation, try your best to stay calm. Um, one one more thing, and like I said, if y'all got questions of sort or whatever, just let me know. I'll do my best to answer. If I don't know, I'm gonna tell you, well, I don't know nothing about that. But another survival skill that I feel like is detrimental to this world. Um, a lot of people are dying from a lot of gunshot wounds. Not a lot of people know how to treat certain gunshot wounds better alone, like try to even save the person at that point, at that moment. Most of the time, people are um, trying to do, extra stuff, or they freeze up, or they run away because they don't want to be there, all that stuff. But um, when it comes to gunshot wounds, usually the first thing is to try to make sure the person is still capable of first breathing, but you also need to make sure that you can try to control the bleeding in some form of way. Um, when I mean control bleeding, I mean if the person is consistently gushing out blood, you most like that person most likely has hit a very, very bad artery. And your first instinct is to try to make sure you stopped that artery from um, bleeding out anymore, because your arteries are very, very important to your body. Um, they're basically your lifeline, um, whether you know it or not. Um, when usually when you do see somebody with a gunshot wound, like I said, if it is gushing out and the blood's nonstop, first instinct is to try to find a cloth of some sort and make sure that you clog that wound, no matter how big, even if it's a stabbing or whatever. If it's a stabbing, now that's a little different, because usually with stabbings, if you get stabbed, um, or if someone gets stabbed, or if they have some type of item lodged into any part of their body, do not move it. Do not remove it. You need to leave it where it is, because if you pull it out, you can always cause more damage. First instinct for people, something's in me, let me pull it out. No, leave it where it's at, because at the end of the day, you pulling it out can cause even more damage and more severity to the situation. So remember, make sure you clog the wound. Um, make sure you stop the bleeding first and foremost if it is that severe. Um, Another thing, a lot of people don't realize, for breathing, if somebody got shot, your best bet is to try to make, they're called, from what I remember, flaps. So basically, it can be a cloth of some sort, but something very, very light, enough for you to be able to tape over the wound, depending on if the wound went completely through. If it did not go all the way through, you're going to be taping this particular cloth, whatever gauze that you have, over that person's wound, but you're going to leave, either, depending on how you can control the breathing, you're probably going to have to leave either the bottom, the top, or even like the sides open, just for that person to still try to be able to function and breathe. Now, a lot of people don't know how to do a tracheotomy, which is basically, if I know you guys have probably heard it before, but basically, you're putting kind of like a tubal source in the person's throat. Now, usually a lot of people will tell you, not to do this, just because, especially if you have not been trained on it, you do not want to kill that person. Um, and especially if you don't really know what you're doing, you definitely don't want to do it. So, if anything, try to see how you can find some form of oxygen of some sort, for that person. And of course, don't move the person too much either. If you do see any type of gunshot wound or even stabbing, um, I don't know if a lot of you know, but when you do get hit with a gun, most of the time, the bullets will either ricochet through your body, or they'll either be stuck, or they can even go completely through your body. So just food for thought on that. Shout out to Jewel. Thank you so much, beautiful, for showing up. Um, so it's another survival skill that I was going to try to let you guys know. Oh, I mean, real quick, we can even go back to kind of like my similarity of my story. Always, if y'all have children, or even if it's like a roommate or an elder or something like that, always try to remember what that person had on before the last time you seen them. Because photographic memory is always going to play key in any situation, whether you're lost, whether someone's gone missing, whether, you know, whatever the situation is. If you have a photographic memory, it's where you can remember where you started from, what was the last thing that you seen, what was the last thing that this person was so much wearing, whatever the case is. It is usually best to try to remember photographically of where you are, even if you can't click sounds into your head and keep track of mileage or something. Let's say you're kidnapped and you're blindfolded, can't see nothing, but you can feel where you're going. So usually people will tell you those are kind of you're counting clicks in your head, like, okay, how many times did I um, go this far before a bump, whatever the case is, whatever you can remember. But photographic memory is usually best. um, Another survival skill that I would say, um, that I think a lot of people should know is how to survive and be able to locate water. um, and I'm gonna get to that longitude, latitude, learning and building. I see that comment. But how are you able to find water? Like, let's, that could be anywhere. Deserts, woods, forests, city. How can I find clean sources of water? Um, if you are by trees, or even streets that produce a lot of moss, um, usually you will be able to track, depending on what side the moss is, that's the side that you're going to technically walk towards. Because moss is always attracted to some continuous source of clean water. Moss cannot grow. I mean, I'm not going to say it can't grow in salt water, but usually most of the time when you find natural moss sources, it's through fresh water. Um, so even if you can't locate that, your best bet to find clean water, like let's say if there's no water completely around you at all, um, usually you are able to dig. And this is going to be kind of like a crazy, um, almost like old school method in a sense. But basically, you can dig until you get to, it's called a rich dirt. And basically, when you know you've gotten to it, the dirt is kind of, it's going to be colder, but you're able to kind of form it into balls if you wanted to. Um, and once you get to that point, if you keep digging just a little bit longer and it gets a little mushy, just a little bit, usually you're able to collect the dirt sources, and you'll be able to basically, um, almost like burn it in a sense. And you'll be able to basically like burn and kind of squeeze it out, especially if you have like a cloth or something like that. Because usually, um, mud or even dirt that's dug up like that, um, it's still a source of fresh water. It's just a process to go through that. Usually, it's almost like, kind of like trying to dig a sandcastle. Like, oh, I need a little bit more sand, because this isn't enough. Because you're literally like almost like tea, making a tea bag, sort of, and you're just trying to like squeeze as much as you can by kind of like heating it up to squeeze, heating up, squeeze type of situation. Um, Also, um, usually, a lot of animals, lately they will migrate, um, above you. So when I say above you, I mean more of like up hills, um, up ranges, just because they don't really like to be too close to people. So if anything, if you're ever looking for food or even more clean water, then feel free to always travel upwards, because it's going to be a hassle, but usually that's where you're even still going to find good water, because of course animals still survive off of water in mountains and, um, high terrains and all that good stuff. Um, Another thing, when you are in need of making a fire, you guys have probably heard this a few times, rub some sticks together and then you'll get your fire. But even doing that is a huge process. Um, a lot of people are capable of using like glass or glasses or some type of object that has some form of reflection that can go through it from the actual sun. And most people are able to do fire that way. If you were a kid, you just kind of experimented a little bit with like magnifying glasses and stuff like that. I don't know if you've ever done it, but um, usually you're able to start a fire just through something that has a very nice sun flared reflection coming off of it. That way you'll be able to start your fire. And like I said, if you don't know how to do that, do it that way. Um, there is a way to do it with rocks, but um, you cannot be so impatient if you do it with rocks, or even if you do it by trying to rotate a stick um, through your Kindle in another stick. It's really going to take a process, and depending on how fast you can do it, how much time you take a break, that's just as long as it's going to take for you to get your fire started. Make sure that your wood or even your Kindle is not damp of any sort. It is not wet of any sort, because then you're going to be struggling even more. Hmm. So back to what Learning and Building was saying. Um, a lot of people don't know what longitude and latitude really is. Um, and usually, if you know coordinates or something like that, usually some people will probably say, like, this is 48 degrees longitude, 120 degrees latitude, or something like that. A lot of aircraft people use it as well. But basically, the best way to remember longitude is um, how long does something go? Like, how long in front of you does that thing move, basically? And latitude, I kind of explained it to my son. It is how high can your laugh go up into the air, basically. So longitude, how long something is. So basically, probably like mileages, how far is the mileages, and then latitude, of course, is distance from air to ground, pretty much. Um, so that's one thing to try to remember. Another thing, um, try to remember, um, of course, good directions as well, like north, east, south, and west. Now, usually to keep track of that, most people are capable of keeping track of sunlight. Um, let's say if there is no sun, you're still able to track it just through the light itself. So depending on where you first see glimpse of light when you wake up, um, that's usually east, and um, where you see it slowly disappear and nighttime's about to come, that's usually your west. Same thing, if you see the sun and you first see it kind of low, in your direction, that's usually east. If it's above you, it's usually um, telling you what time it usually is. So usually, if it's above you, it's usually noon. Um, and of course, once it starts falling, you just kind of try to keep track of time that way as well, and then directions. So just remember, sun rises in the east, sets in the west. If you can keep track of that, then you'll know where your north and south is, so that way you can always get close to something. Trying to think of, because I had a lot of survival kind of one-on-one that I wanted to share with you guys. Just because it's always helpful to get some form of advice, just some form of advice. Even if you didn't know it, or you were like, oh, I'm kind of catching up on that a little bit. Um, you know, it's always good to have that good advice. Mm. Oh, seizures. That's another thing. Um, there are a lot of people in this world that have seizures. Um, And if you ever see someone having a seizure, always make sure that that person is on their side and their legs are kind of propped up as well onto something. That way they can kind of get blood flow going through them. Also, it does help with their breathing as well, because usually if a person is having a seizure, you don't want them to swallow their tongue and choke on any spit or even vomit, saliva, whatever it is that um, that person might go through during a seizure. So that's why you always make sure that the person is off to their side, legs are propped up, and you're basically kind of holding that person in that position until they come to. When I mean come to, they're back alert, they're able to speak to you, um, they're able to understand like what 1 plus 1 is, or what their name is. Do they know where they are at? Um, because a couple years ago, when I was at a call center, this woman went into a seizure, and not one person on the whole floor knew what to do. They just was kind of just letting her have the seizure. But it's like, um, if you are around, just try to make sure that you can at least step in some way, because, like I said, that person could choke, or even, um, struggle on just their own saliva or whatever. So, yeah, that's another little quick little advice that I can give you guys. And like I said, like if something pops up and y'all said that y'all are like, oh, I have a question on this, feel free to ask. It's perfectly fine. I don't bite. mm. Oh, um, just kind of staying on topic, but a little off topic. Um, I also was going to discuss with you guys on your ancestral intuitions. Um, Lately, I've been having some crazy intuitions to where I'm hearing a lot of, I'm not going to call it voices, I'm just going to call them like whispers in a sense, to where there's a message that the ancestral world is trying to put out to everyone. And I feel that either some of you have received it, or if you have not received it, there is a frequency blockage that is happening right now. Um, and what I mean by frequency blockage, I literally mean like society itself is blocking your mind to hear other things that are meant for you to listen to versus what society wants you to listen to. Okay. It's the best way that I can kind of put that. Um, there is a lot that is happening right now. I don't know if you guys have recently heard this month, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah. So this month, probably about 4 days ago ish, the so called CDC put out some information about a deadly fungal infection that cannot be cured by any drugs. They're unable to control it, all kinds of stuff. And so, yep, if you look it up, you'll be able to find it. And so, um, those are one of the things that is a frequency blockage. Um, yes, it's something for you to kind of still kind of raise your eyebrows on, like, oh, well, what's this about? But also, it's best for you to try to silence everything around you for a little bit and just kind of like listen into what your ancestors are trying to reach out to you and give you a message on, because there's a lot that is about to go down once again. I don't know if y'all remember, but my last live before I kind of disappeared for almost a year, I said the same thing, and a whole bunch of stuff transpired just within the year. And this time around, it's kind of gonna be the same exact things in a sense, but um, I think it's more so of them just trying to get everyone to understand that it's okay to start getting up and take action. It really is. Um, but it's up to everyone to be like, okay, I'm ready, for whatever comes next. You're not worried about what consequences is going to happen. You're not worried about, well, how am I going to survive this? That's what I'm saying. I'm like, survival is going to be key in whatever is about to happen. Because even myself, I probably won't know what's about to happen until maybe like a week or the day of, and that's just after I've done ancestral, did my ancestral travel and did all that good stuff. So, um, make sure that y'all doing what y'all can to, just be more alert, be more aware of what's going on. Another thing um, that I was going to try to share with you guys is another survival 101 is when you are, you know, going through cold climates. Um, it is always best to try to stay warm, but if you get completely drenched in, with water, or it's raining and you're in cold weather, your best bet is to try to find someplace warm. Try to start a fire as quickly as possible, and you need to get out of those wet clothes regardless. Yes, you're gonna be cold, and it sounds weird. You're gonna be cold if you don't have clothes on, but at the end of the day, you're trying to make sure that your body temperature doesn't drop. Because if your body temperature drops, then you're screwed. You're not going to be able to think straight, move straight, all that good stuff. And first instinct is, oh, I need to warm up my clothes and keep my clothes on me because I'm cold and it's cold outside. No, you need to take your clothes off, make sure that they're getting dried somehow, somewhere, even if it's air dry, and you need to make sure that you're in a warm area. Whether you have to get um, kindle wood, leaves that are dry, whatever you can get to cover yourself up to make sure that you stay warm, that is your goal. Um, a lot of people die from, what is it, hypothermia, and most likely it's because of, just not thinking like that. Just like a lot of people um, died in that blizzard storm in their vehicles and stuff like that. There, most of that technically could have been prevented if they were able to try to find some form of way to stay warm. Just some form of way to stay warm. Um, I'm really trying to think of, because oh, that was another thing. Kits, kits. It's KITS. Make sure you guys have emergency kits. Um, and when I mean emergency kits, I'm talking about at least a flashlight, at least some matches, or even a lighter if you feel like that will work. Um, you need to make sure you have needle and thread. Yes, I said needle and thread. Um, Make sure that you have batteries, even a satellite radio. Um, and with your satellite radio, make sure that your radio can go um, with, you know, a very, very far distance. You want your radio to at least reach you know, the next town, if not with range, just in case somebody's able to pick it up. And of course, um, socks. A lot of people don't pack socks in kits, but you need to make sure that you have socks packed in your kit. Um, Gauze, of course, medicine. Um, what else? Yes, that too. That's a good one as well. That's a very good radio to have, a crank radio, and it don't gotta be nothing big either. Um, because most of this stuff can fit in your backpack if you pack it properly. Um, and you also need to make sure that you have rope, a canteen, which is basically a water bottle. Even if there's no water in it, you just need to make sure you at least have a water bottle in case you come across water. Um, and I did say rope. Um, you need, it's always good to always carry a knife in your emergency kit in case you have to open up something, cut something, kill something real quick. Um, a knife is always good to have as well. And mm, and the walkie-talkie, that's when I was kind of like, it's good to have a satellite radio too, but I guess you're technically right because with the walkie-talkie, it is just one main frequency that not a lot of um, radios are able to pick up. And so with the walkie-talkie, that's always a good thing to pack. And this goes for, your family in general. Um, and also in your kit, try to make sure that you have at least some form of pain medication, whether it's Tylenol, ibuprofen, something simple like that, and even aspirin, um, because even it's aspirin. I despise medicine in general, but um, when it does come to these medicines, if you get bit by something or tragically injured by something, um, of course, this particular pain medicine should be able to help you guys out as well. Antibiotics, that can be any form of antibiotics. It can be cream based, it can be pill based. Just as long as you have some form of antibiotics packed, just that will definitely help. Um, and yes, MREs are good to have if you're able to access them. Yes, some of them are very terrible, but some of them are actually not as bad as people make it seem. Especially if you're hungry and you need to eat something, you ain't gonna be worried about why it looked like this or whatever the case is. You're gonna be like, "Ooh, it's food, I can eat it." But yes, learning and building MREs are kind of, some of them are bad, but some of them are, actually decent. And like he even said, like y'all can go to any surplus store usually to even get something like that. But even if you don't got MREs, you can always use like non-perishable items because even after the expiration date, they should still be good for at least another year, give or take. And even if that's like your last supply of food and you're like, oh, I don't know how to search for plants and all this stuff, you can still try to save it as long as you can and just eat it, whenever you feel the necessity to do so. Even if you open it, you'll still be able to freeze it. And the best way to freeze it is to, once again, dig a hole as deep as you can, because usually at a certain level length, the soil is colder than what we think, which is why they bury a lot of people 6 feet under, because it's a cooling ground. It's not going to heat up or anything like that. Um, I think I probably got all the bases. I mean, if you have time to put at least one or two pairs of change of clothes in your bag, I mean, feel free to do that. It's always best to at least have two changes of clothes in your bag, or a minimum of one. That way, if something does happen to your clothing, like for instance, the wetness, or it gets muddy, or it messes up or something like that, you'll at least be able to clean it, dry it, reuse it somehow in some form, and you already have dry clothes waiting for you. Make sure that your clothes are in a Ziploc bag, which is usually best. And even if you want better security, you can even tape it off to where the seal alone is completely covered. That way, there will not be any water damage or anything like that onto your clothing. Um, and trying to make sure that I got kind of like the basics for you guys for your kicks. I think I pretty much said everything close to. Oh, with your flashlights, if you guys are capable of getting infrared or ultraviolet lights, which are kind of like lenses that can attach to your flashlights, those are usually always best to get as well, because especially at night, if you need to hunt at night or even see certain people, um, you're able to um, switch to a certain color lens in order to do that, and it doesn't scare off animals or anything like that, because animals usually tend to run off when they see bright lights. um I'm trying to think, because think that kind of is the basics of what might be needed when it comes to your actual kits alone. um I mean, of course, yes. Now, binoculars, you definitely can, you know, the UV binoculars, you can definitely get those as well, or even regular binoculars. Um, it In a way, it kind of would be a necessity to have binoculars. That way, you can see if there's trouble coming from a distance, a certain predator coming from a distance, or even, you know, other people or just buildings that you gotta get to. You'll be able to see a little further than where you're at, with the naked eye. So definitely, those could also become a necessity. Phones necessarily. Um, I mean, it's okay to have a phone, but then again, if some drastic stuff really did happen in the world, and let's say all the cell towers kind of just dropped offline, then it's like, you don't really have a form of calling anybody unless it is kind of like a satellite phone in a way that might be attached to an actual satellite versus a cellular tower. But um, I wouldn't really say you would really need cell phones. Just make sure that if it is an emergency situation, you let people know where you are or where there is going to be a meetup spot per se. And don't just have one meetup spot. Make sure you guys have at least two to three, um, because people might not be able to get to your first spot location because something has happened, um, and they might not be able to get to the second one. But if the third one is kind of like, you know, wherever, I'm not gonna, make suggestions or anything like that, but so I don't want nobody getting no ideas of where folks' places are. But if the third one is just kind of like, you know, out in the open, I'm gonna say that, to where everyone is capable of getting to that one that that you guys have agreed upon, then that's usually best. And if push comes to shove and all three of those fail, just make sure you guys have kind of like a pinpoint location. It doesn't even have to be a building or anything like that. Just make sure you guys have a pinpoint location, like, hey, meet at this particular park with this lake and whatever. It could be whatever. Trying to think if there is something else that I could share with you guys just to see, because I'm trying to see. Um, yes. To siphon gas, your best bet is to have um, it could be a long hose of any sort, just as long as it's a tubing. So that tubing can be a clear tubing, it could be, a solid tubing. Um, but old school way is to make sure that it kind of goes all the way into a tank. Um, it can be any vehicle, just as long as it goes all the way into the tank, and you're basically kind of your mouth is on the other end, or if you have some type of pump source, you can use a pump source on the other end to try to suck the gas out of it. So it's almost like sucking juice out of a straw. Um, that's how you're basically trying to get that gas out of a vehicle. I've seen a lot of people use kind of like the cool little technologies and stuff like that to try to get gas out of vehicles because they don't want to have gasoline in their mouths, of course. But you know, quickest route is to go. Just as long as you have a tube and you can, you drank juice out of a straw before, then you'll be good to go. Um, Another thing that I would say is if you're looking for particular foods, um, if there is an emergency of a sort, try not to look close to where you live. Whether you're in the city or you're in the country, whatever the case is, because usually most of the time people are not going to have what you need close by, because either people have gotten robbed, um, everybody's kind of scrambling to collect stuff from up close. Your best bet is to go as far out as you can to try to find that source of, food. And when I mean food, I mean stuff that actually can grow, like fruits and vegetables, um, that kind of thing. Um, you can always follow animals to certain areas as well. Usually, if you're able to keep track of where birds are, where they're flying towards or to, um, usually they know where food is. Same thing if you know how to track certain animals, such as like deer, elk, rabbits, um, even bears if you have bears. Usually animals know where food is. Because of course they survive. All animals usually survive in the wild anyway. Um, I'm really trying to think if there's something else that I can give you guys tonight. Um, Before I kind of just, disappear and, come back for um 102 with some more information for you guys. Um, and yes, that is true. Creeks lead to rivers, rivers lead to lakes, lakes usually lead to towns, and towns will get you to the cities and the oceans. That is correct. That is definitely correct. Um, so usually, if you guys have never really seen creeks, creeks are like very, very small. Um, Sometimes you won't even really hear water running, but you just see kind of water moving in crevices. And usually, if you just follow the way that the water is flowing downwards, usually that'll get you to a better area as well. Um, which is what learning and building just said. um, I'm trying to know why. I think shoot, dealing with my technical difficulties, they done irritated me so bad. I'm really sitting here trying to think. That's like I'm trying to figure out what else it was that I know. I was like, oh, I got to make sure that y'all know about this. Just just because like I said, I'm gonna still do a survival 102, which is just a part two to this, just to let y'all know. what's going on. Um, mm, so if you're kind of like in your house and let's say like all your power goes out for a sort, for let's say it goes out for some days. Um, how are you going to keep your food in your fridge up to temperature? Um, a lot of people's first instinct is, just don't open the door. Um, I got deep freezer. I'm gonna throw everything in the deep freezer. That's fine to throw everything in the deep freezer, but that deep freezer ain't gonna keep everything cold after the third day because it's already thawing itself out. So it's usually best to try, if you do have a deep freezer, try to keep a few bags of ice in that deep freezer. Um, that way, if things do get cold, um, you got ice in your actual freezer and you have it in your deep freezer. That way, you can um, pull bags accordingly and just kind of keep it in your fridge for stuff that you weren't able to freeze right away, but at least the stuff in that fridge will stay cool. And if you move everything together and even put a towel of some sort over it should still try to keep the ice solid for you until you try to, do your best to try to resave it after a while in the deep freezer alone while that freezer is still kind of completely frozen. Backup generators are usually good as well, but make sure that with those backup generators that you're like learning and building said, you're using more solar, you're not using more of an electric form. Um, and you also want to try to make sure that you have gas as well. Usually, when you do have gas for your backup generators, they will usually run a little bit better and a little bit longer. Um, and you don't have to worry about trying to find a certain power source and reconnecting that power source. Um, if there's a chaotic situation and everybody is trying to use vehicles of some sort of transportation to get out of your state or your city, your best bet is to not drive. I'm letting you know right now, driving a vehicle is not going to get you anywhere faster, especially with so many people in the world, so many people living in your state. You're not going to make it far. Um, it is best to have some form of off road vehicle, and I mean something light like an ATV. You can have a motorcycle, something that you can either carry your backpack on or something that is capable of carrying a trailer along the back of it. And I don't mean like nothing big of a trailer. I mean something like small that even if you have like, tweaked it to where it can just kind of run over the dirt as well, run over certain terrain as well, without getting stuck. Even if it's like a rollover situation where it's like, oh, everything's secure, even though if it rolls over, just nothing too huge because you don't want to have to carry all that weight. You just don't. Your goal is to make sure you got necessities and you're out. That's it. No questions whatsoever. And of course, a sense of or a source of having a weapon of some sort is always best. I know a lot of us in the community, um, we've already, been discussing how everybody's got to try to strap up. Everybody's got to try to get some type of, weapon up under their belt to make sure that they're safe. If you got it, cool. If you don't, get something because protection is key. You need to make sure that you have some form of protection along, you know, with you at all times because you never know what's going to happen. Um, Let me think. Um, if you have children, make sure that you have their necessities as well. Even if you don't have, let's say, like you're finna run out of pull ups or something like that, make sure you have, it's called reusable pull ups and reusable diapers, or even like a cloth or something like that, because if something happens or whatever, you're able to at least take it off of them, wash it, let it dry for about 30 minutes to an hour, and then you can put it right back on your child. Um, and make sure that um, they understand what's going on. You make sure that you speak to them and teach them certain um, rules on how to travel, because of course you don't want your child making too much noise. You don't want them, they're gonna cry, they're probably gonna whimper, especially if you guys are walking and trying to hike to somewhere if you don't have certain transportation. But it's always best to try to just make sure you kind of just prepare your children's mindset on if something like that does happen, to where you guys do have to get up and go and they don't know what's going on. um, Me currently, I've already taught my children, how to do CPR. I've already taught them what their emergency procedures are when leaving. Of course, my 4-year-old is so oblivious to the world because she, you know, just got lost just following a puppy, and it's kind of just got to get a little bit more instilled in her. But overall, my two oldest kind of, they kind of know what to do in any type of emergency situation. Um, if you have pets, I mean, hopefully you're able to teach your pets, certain commands as well on, how to heal, how to attack if you need that extra protection, how to hunt, um, just basic protections. Because you, like I said, you never know what's gonna happen. That dog can be the tiniest dog, but guess what? That dog gonna help you look for some stuff. It might be the quickest way. um, Another thing, I think yeah, because I gave y'all kind of tips on the backpack, what's really having that, what's really having your kit. Um, Trying to also think. mm, Now, when it does come to weather, you always, always try to make sure you carry some form of a hat. Um, because I know a lot of us don't really wear sunscreen like that. But if you at least have a hat with some form of coverage over your face, and that's the front part of your face, that will usually help you from, heat stroke. Um, Another thing, um, thank you for that, learning and building, because signaling. Um, I think I've said this before. When it comes to, teaching your children something as small as some ASL, or just small signals on how to get their attention without making too much noise, that's usually best as well. So make sure y'all are having, like, quick drills, just at your house. Because everybody's been talking, and there's been, a crazy world out here. So much war, so much death, so many kidnappings, all kinds of stuff. And if you're out there, trying not to, get too much attention from people, your best bet is to make sure that you have some form of signaling. Um, and usually ASL is going to be a quietest route, because they literally speak through hand gestures, arm gestures, all of that. Even if you don't know ASL, if you can teach, y'all's emergency signals on how to excuse me, on how to communicate just through making something as small as a fist to mean stop, or um, a full hand forming, come on, it's okay to go, um, or danger, whatever it is that you can come up with that you can use as a coding to where you're not using sound. That is usually always best as well in any type of emergency situation, especially if there is some form of danger close. um, and that can mean any type of danger. Anything could be going down at any moment, and all y'all need to do is just stay hidden and make sure that each other can see each other, and y'all are okay. Here's my hand signal. Blah blah blah. All that good stuff. But yeah, I'm trying to see if I had maybe one or two more things to kind of share with you guys. Because we're barely coming up shy on 2 hours, just barely. Um, because like I said, I don't know what was going on with my system earlier, but that took me at least a good 15 minutes, give or take, away from this. And I had everything in my head of like, okay, I'm gonna talk about this, and then dealing with that, it kind of just went woo. But trying to think of another good survival skill to do. Mm. Hmm. If y'all have a buddy system, make sure y'all have a buddy system as well. If anybody gets split up at any moment in time, if y'all are a group, at least try to make sure that there's at least two people next to y'all. Meaning you and another person. There's always two people next to each other, no matter what. You never want to end up anywhere by yourself, because something could happen. You might hurt your ankle, whatever the case is, and you might need assistance to even get back to where your whole group is at. So always try to make sure, regardless if y'all split up or if y'all don't split up, regardless, there's at least two people that know, okay, you're my buddy partner in case you go somewhere, I'll go with you type of situation. Um, because like I said, anything can happen, you can get attacked by an animal, whatever. Um, but you always want somebody else to be there with you. That way, um, at least one of y'all is able to assist the other or go get help for the other. And y'all know how to get back to each other, basically. um, please don't be that type of person if there is a necessity of survival mode to be like, oh, I need to take everything with me. You ain't gonna be able to take everything with you. It just ain't happening. Um, I mean, paper and pen, yeah, it's always good to really have as well, just in case you need to write something out without even moving or saying a word. Because I know some people do that. And then, of course, if you need to draw out a map, if you don't have a map, but you can pinpoint where you were at a certain point, that's usually best as well. Um, Other than that, I'm just like really baffled that I really like kind of lost train of thought. Um, so yeah, when it comes to like snake bites, or even venomous bites in general, each one is completely different. Um, Usually, if you have a snake bite, depending on how deadly the snake is, because a snake can kill you in about 10 seconds, give or take, depending on how big your body is. But there has been reports of a snake that is capable of penetrating its victim, and that victim is basically dead in the next 10 seconds. Um, and Usually, if you do get bit by a snake, from what I was, told, your best bet is to try to see how much venom you're able to stop from flowing. So you're gonna want to either tie it off, right away to kind of like stop your blood flow from accepting it right away, and you're going to try to do your best to try to squeeze as much venom as you can out of that particular wound itself where it was penetrated. Um, Now, sometimes, give or take, you might have to cut and dig depending on how severe it is, but usually it shouldn't get that too drastic, unless there's, you know, something crazy happening. But that's why I said it's always best to try to even keep like aspirin, in a sense, because it's considered a blood thinner. And when you get bit by snakes, they usually clot the blood up, to where it causes your blood to get thicker and it's not thinning out fast enough. So that's why I said it's best to make sure you at least have the aspirin or um, antibiotics as well with you when it comes to having a snake bite. Even if it's like a spider bite as well, because me personally, um, I got bit by a wolf spider, and or not a wolf spider, a brown recluse spider. It's still a brown spider. It's horrible. Um, and basically, when the spider bit me, not only did it bite me, but it was capable of injecting eggs inside my shoulder. And so I had to get my shoulder basically dug out, because it was literally like a ball, like on my shoulder. Like it was literally like a little bouncy little ball that was just on my shoulder after a day. And it was hurting so bad. And I was like, okay, this has to go. And I'm freaking out. What is this? And surely enough, um, I went in and they were like, oh, we have to cut it open because there's eggs inside of it. So we have to scrape the eggs out as well. So certain certain spiders are capable of biting you like that, which is crazy. And even some of them are capable of eating whole carcasses, as well. So um, just be aware of your surroundings when you're walking, because most insects or predators, of that nature, whether it's a spider, a snake, some form of reptile, whatever, even a mammal, um, they're capable of camouflaging themselves in any type of surrounding to where you wouldn't even see it there until after you passed it or you just got close enough to notice what it was. Um, so just make sure you're kind of just watching where you step, watching where you duck, and you'll be fine. Um, and mm, I mean, I would say that one, kind of one thing that I would share as well is always make sure, and this has been shown to you plenty of times, probably told to you plenty of times, but if you need to make a fire of any sort, please make sure that you do it at night and not during the day. And if you do it at night, the fire around it, so if it's going around, you need to make sure you put up some form of barrier to where the light's not completely seen the whole, even at night. It helps people not notice you when you have the fire um, at night, because of the fact is that, oh, it's dark, people aren't going to see the smoke. But during the day, if they see smoke, instinct is, oh, go towards the smoke. and next thing you know, you're probably dead because they done took everything you had, and you're by yourself. Ah, but see, you wouldn't be by yourself if you went along with the buddy system. Have somebody there to help you, signal everybody else that's around y'all, that's close by or whatever, and boom, you're good to go. Um, I think, I think I gave y'all pretty much some good information, some good intel lately. And like I said, I'm gonna still have a part two to this, as well, because there is a lot of survival instincts that people don't really, like I said, they don't really know how to do them properly, never knew anything about them, um, or just needs to kind of get more updated on what's going on or how to handle certain things. And so I was kind of just like, let me just share this, little bit of knowledge that I got with you guys. That way, in case something does happen, you know how to just kind of kick into action. Because I can count on my hands how many times I've seen just people freeze up at car accidents, or freeze up when somebody's having a seizure, or freeze up when they see is somebody just about to pass out or is just in need of some type of help. Like, so many people freeze up, and it's just like, in that split second of you doing that, you could have been already in the process of preventing something probably bad that was going to happen. So that's why I kind of just wanted to kind of kickstart this off a little bit with y'all, just to let y'all know what was going on. And by all means, like I'm gonna say it 100 times over, 1,000 times over, 1,000,000, however long it takes. I am just so thankful, y'all, that I got my 4 year old, and I found my 4 year old. Her dad, was able to find her perfectly fine as well. And when I tell y'all, like I said, I never thought something like that would happen. And when it finally did happen to me, I didn't take no action. And I am like beyond proud of myself, like over the years of just being able to be that type of person. If I see something wrong, I have to step in and do something right away, because every second is going to count. Every second is going to count. Um, and that can be in any form of situation, whether it's life or death. And I just want y'all to know that no matter what is going on right now, make sure that y'all are focused on preparing yourselves. Make sure that y'all are able to get protection for yourselves, and you're able to also tap in to that ancestral energy, because the fact is that, like I said, they trying to reach out to y'all. Y'all got to start listening to what's going on, because there's so much that is happening right now that's detrimental to our culture, that's detrimental to our society alone. And I'm not talking about the outside society, I'm talking about what's going on right now with our community that we've been, working with each other for so long. We need to start focusing on not necessarily the now, but the later. We need to worry about what's finna happen later, not what's about to happen now. Because I'm like, if we prepare for later and discuss what's gonna happen later, then we will be able to fix later before it even begins. So that's the best way to explain that. But I'm gonna just go ahead and leave it at that for now, because I'm gonna go ahead and, like I said, I'm gonna do a part two to this, with a little bit more information for you guys, um, and even probably next build, like I'm about to, discuss some other things with y'all as well, just to try to see, um, where everybody's heads really been at, whether it's in other people's chats, whether it's outside in your real life, where has your head really been at? Are you really doing what you need to do to make sure that um, you're basically up to par with, your universal life, all that good stuff. But without further ado, thank you guys so much for showing your support as always, and showing up and showing out. And by all means, if y'all catch me in any chats, feel free to give me a shout out because I'm always going to do the same thing in return. Um, I appreciate everyone, and respect and much moon energy love to everyone for showing up and showing out on this build. I just wanted to, share my quick story with y'all, and try to throw out some survival skills because it's a necessity nowadays, especially with the way things is going. So y'all get some rest, or pop off tonight if y'all are still out or finna head out because it is Saturday. But party, have fun, keep that energy high, um, and much love and honors to everyone. I appreciate all y'all. Thank y'all.